It's an enigma that still haunts me to this day. The biological shift, as it would later be known, unfolded like a waking nightmare, and it wasn't limited to just a few unfortunate souls. It consumed all lives, reshaped our reality, and forever altered the course of human history. It all began with seemingly harmless rashes, angry, crimson welts that stubbornly plagued our skin. At first, we brushed them off as minor irritations, allergies, or perhaps an outbreak of some yet unknown skin condition. Doctors could offer no answers, and in the absence of a diagnosis, we opted to suppress the nagging itch with whatever medications we could find. Little did we know, this was merely the beginning. Slowly but relentlessly, the rashes evolved, penetrating beneath the surface of our skin. It was as if microscopic parasites were tunneling beneath our flesh, burrowing deeper and deeper. We could feel their insidious movement, like wriggling worms beneath the surface of a rotting apple. A persistent itch that crawled through our veins. It wasn't long before people started reporting loved ones missing. Some said they just couldn't take it anymore and ran into the woods to die. But it would have been much better had that been the extent of it. For those afflicted by the relentless march of the parasitic infestation, their bodies seemed to mutate, their skin rupturing, giving birth to grotesque amalgamations of writhing tendrils and flesh. It was a horrific transformation to witness, and the mere existence of these monstrosities was enough to make the blood run cold. Those of us who remained uninfected lived in perpetual fear, unable to trust even our own bodies. How could we, when our very flesh had betrayed us? The physical, and perhaps even the metaphysical, line between us and the abominations had blurred. The gruesome truth was that we now shared our world with these horrific entities that hid beneath the dermal surface, waiting to emerge and claim their victims. In the early stages of the biological shift, doctors and scientists across the world raced to tackle the emerging crisis. But they were also at a loss to explain the strange rashes and the underlying parasitic infestation that gripped those affected. Hospitals overflowed with desperate patients seeking answers and relief from the relentless itching and the unsettling movements beneath the skin. A global collaboration of experts was convened to study the outbreak, but despite their best efforts, the parasitic entities beneath the skin defied understanding. Rumors spread that the parasites exhibited properties of both biology and machinery, but how could that be possible? Countless treatments and therapies were attempted, from anti-parasitic drugs to experimental surgeries, all with little to no success. The attempt to surgically remove the parasites proved particularly futile, as it became evident that they had interwoven themselves with the host's bodily systems. The parasites, it seemed, were an inextricable part of the infected. As the outbreak spread and society unraveled, the medical and scientific communities found themselves facing an intractable foe. The world watched in horror as the situation deteriorated, with governments struggling to contain the unrelenting crisis. Public unrest and fear reached a fever pitch, leading to the rise of various underground groups that offered a range of theories and solutions. Yet the fate of those afflicted remained grim, their existence marked by the relentless parasitic infestation that had become an inescapable part of their lives. It wasn't long before governments began more aggressive attempts at containment. Quarantine zones were established, and anyone trying to leave or enter was shot on sight. At first, the human cries of the uninfected trapped within could be heard, but over the coming days they lessened until, finally, only the unearthly shrieks of the monsters remained. The grotesque creatures that now inhabited our friends and neighbors made a mockery of the meager defenses erected around these zones. It was only a matter of time before they breached the borders, leaving us to face the horrors on our own. Amid the chaos of the quarantine zones, I too began to experience the insidious effects of the infection. At first, I tried to dismiss the subtle changes, attributing them to the unrelenting stress and fear that had gripped our lives. Yet, as the days passed, the undeniable truth began to manifest itself. A subtle, relentless itching had claimed my skin, the same rash that had first marked the onset of this nightmarish transformation in others. The once familiar welts had become a dreaded part of my own existence. I could feel the entities beneath my skin, wriggling and burrowing like invasive parasites, persistently crawling through my veins. The creeping horror of this realization seeped into every corner of my psyche. My body had become host to the parasitic entities, and I could no longer deny the inevitable. I was now one of them, a living horror fused with these abominations. As the gruesome transformation claimed me, I found myself facing an agonizing decision: to succumb to the invader or resist it with every ounce of my being. My existence had become a continual battle between my humanity and the relentless invaders lurking beneath my skin. The infected, like me, bore visible scars that signaled the start of our descent into transformation. These marks acted as a grotesque branding, isolating us from society. Those who had once been our neighbors now recoiled in horror at the sight of us, treating us like pariahs. They had every reason to fear us, for we were living nightmares, and it was clear what we would soon become. The government and scientific community struggled to comprehend the scope of what was happening, but it was quickly becoming clear that they were hopelessly overwhelmed. But as the contagion proliferated, signs of resistance began to emerge. Some of us resorted to desperate self-experiments in an effort to free ourselves from the relentless intrusion of the parasites. We tried to cut them out, only to discover that they had become an intrinsic part of our being, entwined with our very bones and tissue. Amputations were distressingly common, but the worm-like entities always found a way back, as if bound by an invisible, malevolent intelligence. Amid the chaos and the rapidly deteriorating situation, I discovered a clandestine underground group. They claimed to know the origins of this horrific malady, of a sinister experiment, and of the government's own role in creating this plague. They asserted that the government had indeed engineered a biological weapon, a horrifying chimera of the living and the mechanical, and that experiment had spiraled out of their control. Yet what was most unsettling was their radical solution. A faction within the group proposed that we willingly merge with the parasites, as unthinkable as that might sound. They believed that this would somehow make us something more than human. They saw it as the only path to what they called salvation. In a dimly lit basement, I witnessed the ritual unfold. Those who had chosen this path lost any semblance of their humanity. They had erupted into hideous things beyond description, their bodies grotesquely transformed. As they invited me to join the nightmarish ritual, a sense of dread overcame me. Their dark intentions felt unbearable. I knew I couldn't follow them down that path, but escaping them and the looming cataclysm seemed hopeless at best. Fueled by terror, I chose to flee into the ominous night, my body still host to the writhing abomination beneath my skin. It was through will alone that I kept any part of the man I once was. I realize now that I never had a choice. The relentless parasites have claimed every aspect of my humanity. They have consumed my body, leaving me as little more than a vessel for whatever their wretched purpose might be. I am a grotesque fusion of man and parasite, an entity that no longer belongs to the world I once knew. My senses, more acute now, touch a world that is not my own. The infection has rendered me an abomination, a victim of an insane experiment gone awry. The underground group, now no longer human, took little notice of my presence, as if we were all attuned to the same invisible wavelength. They had abandoned any remnants of sanity, having embraced the irreversible transformation in pursuit of their elusive salvation. As we converged in the labyrinthine ruins of the once bustling city, the night wind whispered cryptic promises, and the desolate remnants of humanity looked on in awe and terror. There was no turning back, no redemption for the crimes committed against us. The world was now a maelstrom of chaos and agony, an unforgiving landscape where the horrors of the past had birthed a new era of terror. The biological shift had irrevocably altered the world, leaving us to grapple with the horrific consequences. As I confront the writhing entity that stares back at me through alien eyes in the cracked mirror, I see only a walking nightmare. I no longer belong to the world I once knew, and the night wind carries the inhuman cries of others like me.
We are the biological shift, the monstrous evolution of a world gone mad, and there is no escape from the horrors that await.
Thanks for listening. See you next time. If you enjoy our videos, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe.